dirt up into the air and pelted the top of Mosen's mobile armory. Ducking at the painful sound, I peeked through my hooves to see Glimmerlight opening fire with every rifle and pistol she could find within the wagon. Either through one of the slit windows or by leaning out the door, she tried to force off the griffins before they could line up their throws. She was trained, aimed properly, and seemed pretty cool under fire, but the wagon was being hurled every which way under brimstone's steam that ruined her aim. We hit a bump so large I felt all 4 of my hooves leave the floor before clattering down. My shoulder ached, but the wound had clotted over for now after 2 healing potions and a thick wad of bandage. "Hey, Brim! Can you get off the main road? They might leave us alone if we disappear now." There was no reply. The cacophony of sound was beginning to give me a headache. Rangers thundering down the road around us were stopping every few seconds to dissuade the griffins with their heavy weaponry. The run from the stable had cost them more than one armored warrior, but now that we were within the ruins of Philadelphia, the urban environment was beginning to give them a chance. Already the crowd of them around us had gradually passed away to take up positions inside ruined homes or warehouses. Glimmerlight fell back suddenly with a cry of shock. Gasping, I threw myself to her, searching for the wound. What was I meant to do for gunshots? She gently pushed me away, struggling to keep her balance in the madly bucking trailer. "It's all right, Murky. I'm fine. Just had one round next to me. Bit of a surprise. Got any alcohol?" Huh? None of Mosen's vodka around? Ah, shit. I usually aim better with a shot or 2 in me. Brim, I said, could we... Whoa! Echoing her sentiment, I clung to the workbench as the wagon turned sharp to the right, reeled up on 2 wheels and struck a wall with a metallic crash that stripped some plates of armor entirely off. We were flung around, the world twisting up before it all landed again with a bone-shaking slam. Various empty firearms scattered out of the open door behind us to tumble on the road. The little thief inside me couldn't help but feel a wince of pain at such a waste of potential items to acquire once we got away. Through the shadows I saw nothing but brickwork and shadows. We were in an alleyway. Slipping my goggles over my eyes, it felt safer from bullets, and I wasn't about to argue the harsher rules of reality. I dared to poke my head up to a slit window, seeing no griffins above us, just the 2 thin walls of the alleyway between a pair of huge buildings. I think they're gone. Popping her head out of the front window, I saw Glimmer lean down to Brimstone's torn ear. "Next time you gonna warn me before you decide to throw us around like that?" Brimstone's voice seemed all the more deadpan amidst his clear concentration and focus.
"Figured you were used to being bucked around hard."
What? Why, you... Ugh! She slammed the slit window shut and turned back to me, fuming for a few seconds with crossed legs, before shaking her head and uttering a small laugh. "I swear, someday if I ever grow up, I'll look back and cringe. You promised to remind me to never become an old cynical bastard like him, Murky." At the moment I was still shivering and holding on to the workbench leg, as though it would protect me from every horrible thing in Equestria. Chuckling, she gently eased me from it. Well, perhaps she had a little difficulty. That table leg felt safe. I promise, I think. Stammering, I found myself fighting all the emotions in my head. Why couldn't I handle emotions like any pony else? Fear of being caught or dying mixed with an elation at our escape attempt, and that we were outside the wall. My eyes felt like they had run dry minutes ago while I had been lying wounded. My shoulder still gave me a sickening feeling every time I moved it. I had seen ponies receive so much worse, but one stab had broken my determination into a blubbering wreck. I didn't feel brave like those ponies who could take an injury and keep going, like Brimstone. How would I ever manage out here? My thoughts were pushed away when I felt a rusty old revolver and what looked like a cut-down combat rifle thrust at me by Glimmer. "Here, keep yourself occupied. We'll need these before this is out. Get them loaded up for me. I'll see if we can find something for you, too." Her voice was calmer, more stoic than before. Looking at her pulling the same bolt action she had from the stable apart to check something, I saw every inch of the grim training that Ranger initiates must have had to go through. Every motion mechanical, like their suits, even when not in them or intended to ever wear them. Still fighting for balance and occasionally feeling the wagon grind against the wall, I began to pick up the guns to load, and in the process discovering precisely why I had only ever seen unicorns carry revolvers. We had a straight run. This alleyway was almost fully protected from aerial strikes, and once we were past the exit into the next road, we'd be gone. It was the only way out of the alley, so no ambushes. Here, Murky, try this out. Her magic floated across a small pistol, I had long since checked for battle saddles, that I bit into. The grip felt small enough for my mouth, the trigger thick and easy to find. The thing that held bullets seemed to be full already. You've got 7 rounds in there, Murky. Tongue back for safety. Forward to fire. Recoil should be low, I think. You think? I muttered around the weapon. Only a small chance of knocking one of my teeth out then? I spat it out to hang around my neck on its cord before going back to work on her guns. Personally, I think I'd just prefer a battle saddle. We know. Nonplussed, I continued. No, I mean, I like mines. I like to, run away, you see. I could drop them behind me or put them in places where I know some pony was going to come out of. Glimmerlight stopped where she was, staring at me as though I had just shot her by accident. Somewhere you knew some pony was going to come out? Shit! Dropping the long-barreled pistol at her hooves, she leapt to the slit window at the front. Brim! The alleyway is my... She was seconds too late. Brimstone must have leapt over it by sheer chance, but we had not. Never had my world accelerated so fast. I lost all hearing, blasted into a ringing oblivion, as I felt the armored floor of the wagon catapult up underneath me amidst a roaring explosion that flared through every window. Briefly, I became weightless within a wagon that had been blown vertically up and over, rolling end over end. I felt my mouth open, screaming as I impacted from wall to wall, unknowing of which way was up or down. The workbench collided with my ribs before a final crunch hurled me away. I impacted on something, tumbling over or through it. Everything turned red. Pain flooded every joint and every muscle when I landed in a heap, rolling multiple times to a halt on... dirt? Groaning, I opened my eyes onto a scene of devastation. The red was not my vision being lost. It was Philadelphia in general. The wagon had been thrown so hard I had been sent flying out of the door. The armored transport's underside was bent and shattered around an odd V-shape of design welded on. I tried to move, before finding just why that was such a mistake. Nothing seemed badly hurt, but I felt bruised all over and shivery. My shoulder bandage was turning red again. I could feel the blood trickling under it. Gradually sound returned like the roaring of hard rain, and I tried to crawl back towards the wagon. I could see Brimstone, thrown with the wagon, bucking the harness off himself. His hide bore several red spots below the dirt. I saw him pull a small shard of metal from his torso with a grunt. Glimmerlight was flopped over the door, holding her head. Her nose was bleeding, but she seemed unharmed. Murky! Get into cover! Quickly! Doing the best I could, I dragged myself towards the burning wagon. Brimstone pulled Glimmerlight down behind it while she tried to regain her senses. Around me I saw little plumes of dirt kick up. A flutter. Many flutters. Griffins! There were 6 above us, circling and leaping roof to roof into firing positions. Finding strength born of lethal danger, I limped and staggered to fall into cover beside Brimstone and Glimmerlight. The big raider had grabbed a combat rifle and was letting rattling shots off from his mouth to dissuade the griffins from coming any closer. They didn't know he likely couldn't hit them, even at 10 feet. I cowered behind the wagon, feeling the heat of the flames on the side of my face. What was I meant to do? I didn't know, and...
Get this into your mouth and keep their heads down.
Brimstone shoved the small pistol around my neck almost directly into my mouth. Shivering, I tried. I really did. But every impact on our hiding spot from the griffin snipers made me want to cry and curl up under the nearest object. I couldn't do this. Closing my eyes, I heard Brimstone curse as he saw me fall down and cover my ears, simply crying away instead of helping like I should. I tried to blank my mind, imagine everything as nice again. Around me, I saw this warehouse estate as bustling. There were ponies laughing as they worked, knowing they were safe. Yes, safe. I'd go and find the ponies I liked and be safe. Like Like that ice cream cart over there that totally wasn't a ruined shell now. Or that cafe that didn't have a Pegasus Sky Chariot crash through the front door. I just wanted things to be better. Not stuck in the middle of a failing escape attempt, about to be shot. I didn't want to be shot again. Every part of my mind was focused on trying to fool myself into thinking I wasn't really where I was, that I was back on the rock farm, or back in even old Equestria, just to get away from it. The slave in my mind was screaming, cursing, and slapping my face to get back in line. If I ran out and gave up, they'd take me back. They only shot at Brim and Glimmer because they were fighting back. Gunfights were too much. I just wanted
to be better.
The voice louder than any sound of my messed up subconscious. The great DJ. I checked my pitbuck, but I couldn't be sure. Was I hearing his voice at the wonderful right time, or just remembering?
The obstacles in our path can be overcome if we just work together. So don't abandon those you care about. You hear?
Beside me I saw Glimmer reel back as a ricochet skiffed off her neck, replacing the cuts she had healed from the fight in the stable. I saw the blood running from Brimstone's shrapnel wound. I was abandoning them to fight on my behalf.
Only by sticking together can we truly save lives and make ourselves better, no matter what horrors we all must share along the way.
That we must share. Protégé had told me that I didn't have the mindset or determination to escape Philadelphia. I'd found others to help me replace it with their own strength. But now I was taking that for granted, hiding while they risked danger. How many times had I drawn myself succeeding at escaping now? Time to make it a reality. I picked up the pistol again, clambering up and throwing my goggles onto my head after they had steamed up from my tears. I was still crying, but I didn't care. That wouldn't ever stop. Pulling my weight up on my good hoof, I cast a glance around at the buildings that were opening fire on us. Celestia, give me the great strength to do this. Aiming at the first one I saw, my tongue pulled the trigger. In the space of that single shot, past the concussive pain in my ears, I felt the fear fade. A strand of concrete exploded into pieces 3 feet to the right of the griffin, but I saw her duck because of it. I could do this. Turning my head, I aimed for where I heard the sizzle of an energy weapon followed by the contrail of red to the source. 2 squeezes, 2 loud bangs that hurt my head. They both missed, but I saw Glimmerlight given a chance to think, aim, and fire the long bolt-action rifle accurately enough to snap the griffin back from her perch. Whether by injury or just armor impact was unknown. Together I fought with them. I fought to defend them, to help them. I fought for our freedom, with friends, and I felt stronger than I ever had for aiding in that moment. "Cover me!" The voice wasn't Brimstone or Glimmerlight. It was a griffin. I screamed for them to get down before the griffins unleashed everything they had at us. My ears through the noise picked up a flutter of wings. They were on the move to outflank us and... Yarr! A bullet pinged in from the side of the wagon, rebounding just in front of my eyes. Brimstone shoved me below the wreckage, firing a burst at the griffin who had snuck around under their cover. Behind us I could hear 3 more flying for the alleyway to get behind us. Soon, my help or not, we'd be overwhelmed.
Fucking chickens not wanting to come down and tussle hooves with me. I hate griffins.
Brimstone complained as he dumped his last rounds at them and dropped the rifle with a snarl. "To be fair, they don't have hooves, Brim." Glimmerlight's humor was forced through clenched teeth. The last round sprung from her rifle. There were others on the ground somewhere, but in the wreckage it was all too dirt-covered and scattered to identify what rounds were to which gun in time. I had a few rounds left, but my participation was hardly stellar, as spirited as I felt. "We're going to die, aren't we?" I felt myself asking through my wet eyes to Glimmer, surprising myself with how steady my voice was. She sighed, looking around the rooftops, before grinning and pulling an apple-shaped grenade from the armory wagon. Brimstone shook his head disapprovingly.
Grenades aren't known for taking care of flying enemies too well, Glim.
Glimmerlight's grin only widened and turned almost crazed as she raised the want-it-needed spell orb up alongside the grenade.
Well now, that's just playing dirty.
The spell orb flickered,